600 Google employees just told their CEO to refuse the Pentagon. And China blocked a $2 billion AI deal that was already done. And OpenAI is missing its own revenue targets. Oh, right before a $1 trillion IPO. Well, welcome back to AI Front Page. We got 7 stories today. And oh, a quick thing. We're giving away Amazon gift cards worth up to $100 to random subscribers every single week. So all you have to do, subscribe and you're in. All right, let's go. So this is the biggest ethics story in AI right now, and it has a lot of layers because over 600 Google employees, including more than 20 directors, senior directors, vice presidents, they signed an open letter to CEO Sundar Pichai demanding that he refuse to let the Pentagon use Google's AI for classified military operations. And that letter, direct. It says Google AI systems could be used for lethal autonomous weapons and mass surveillance. And it says classified workloads are by definition opaque, meaning that once the technology goes behind a classified wall, there is no way to verify how it's being used. And it says that human lives are already being lost and civil liberties put at risk from misuses of AI. So this is not the first time that Google employees have drawn this line. So back in 2018, thousands of employees protested Project Maven, a Pentagon program that used AI to analyze drone footage. Now, Google, they pulled out of that deal, but now the company is back at the table. They're negotiating with the Department of Defense over using Gemini in classified settings. So here is what makes this story bigger than just, Google. 2 months ago, Anthropic, the company behind Claude, they refused to give the Pentagon unrestricted access to its AI. So Anthropic's CEO, Dario Amodei, he said, we cannot in good conscience allow the military to use Claude without safeguards against autonomous weapons and domestic surveillance. And so, the Pentagon's response, they designated Anthropic a supply chain risk. And then President Trump ordered all government departments to stop using Claude entirely. So OpenAI, they stepped in to fill the gap. And Sam Altman signed a contract with the Pentagon and was later told by military that OpenAI doesn't get to make operational decisions about how its technology gets used. Okay, so now we have 3 very different approaches. We have Anthropic, they said no, they got punished. OpenAI said yes, and they got the contract. And then Google's own employees are trying to stop their own company from following OpenAI's path. So the letter, it ends with, making the wrong call right now would cause irreparable damage to Google's reputation, business, and role in the world. So whether Pichai listens, well, that's another question entirely. In a one-line statement, China's National Development and Reform Commission ordered Meta to unwind its $2 billion acquisition of Manus, the agentic AI startup that had become a key piece of Meta's AI strategy. So here is why this is wild, because the deal was announced back in December. So Manus, they were founded by Chinese engineers, but they'd already relocated its headquarters and key staff to Singapore. So Meta said that there would be no continuing Chinese ownership interests and that Manus would shut down all operations in China. So they thought they were, we're good, we're in the clear. Well, they weren't. Now, Beijing, they launched a probe in January, and now they have killed it. No explanation, just prohibited in accordance with laws and regulations. So the problem for Meta is that this deal was already essentially complete. And Manus employees have already joined Meta's AI team. So investors like Tencent, Hongshan Capital, they've already got their payouts. So the website literally says Manus is now part of Meta. So unwinding this is not like canceling an order. It's like you're unscrambling eggs. So one technical analyst in Singapore, they nailed the significance. They said, what matters isn't where the legal entity sits. Beijing is saying that if the founders are Chinese, if the technology has Chinese roots, then China has a say. Yeah, regardless of where the company's headquartered. So this is, it's the clearest signal yet that US and Chinese AI ecosystems they're decoupling. And for every single AI startup with Chinese founders that are just thinking about, I'm going to relocate to Singapore or the US and I'm going to avoid the restrictions. Well, this changes that calculation completely. So Amazon just launched a new feature, and it's called Join the Chat, and it changes how shopping works on the platform. So here's the idea. You open a product page in the Amazon app, say, coffee maker. So instead of scrolling through a wall of specs and reviews, you tap, hear the highlights, and then an AI voice will give you a quick audio summary. Then you can ask follow-up questions out loud. Say, is this good for beginners? Do customers say that this is loud? How does it compare to the one that was bought last year? And the AI, it then pulls from product descriptions, customer reviews, Q&A sections, and other data to give you a conversational answer. And each question that you ask shapes the next response. So it gets more relevant as you go. Now, Amazon is calling these AI-powered shopping experts. It's basically like having a knowledgeable store employee on every single product page, except it's available on millions of products, 24/7. This is Amazon doing what Amazon does best, which is it's removing friction from buying. And the less time that you spend reading reviews, the faster you're going to click add to the cart. Whether that's good for your wallet, well, that's a different story and a different conversation. So 2 massive OpenAI stories just dropped, and they're deeply connected. So first, we have the Wall Street Journal. They reported that OpenAI has been missing its own internal revenue and user growth targets. Now, ChatGPT, they fell short of an internal goal to reach 1 billion weekly active users. So the company missed multiple monthly revenue targets earlier this year. And then the CFO, Sarah Friar, has privately warned colleagues that if revenue growth does not accelerate, OpenAI could struggle to fund its data center commitments. So that's a serious problem when you've just raised $122 billion at an $852 billion valuation, and you're planning an IPO at roughly, $1 trillion. So the revenue shortfall, it isn't random. Anthropic has been quietly eating OpenAI's lunch in coding and enterprise markets. And then Google's Gemini, they gained significant ground in late 2025. So developer-heavy segments, the highest value users, they saw the sharpest competitive pressure. OpenAI pushed back hard, with Altman and Friar calling the report ridiculous. But the market, they didn't buy it. Oracle dropped 4%, Broadcom and AMD, they fell 3 to 4%, and then SoftBank sank 10% in Asia. Now here's the connected story. On the very same day, OpenAI and Microsoft announced that they are ripping up their exclusive partnership. So Microsoft no longer has exclusive access to OpenAI's products and IP, and OpenAI can now sell through any cloud provider. AWS, Google Cloud, whoever wants them. And Amazon CEO Andy Jassy immediately announced that OpenAI's models would be available on AWS Bedrock within weeks. This is huge. For years, if you wanted OpenAI's models, you had to go through Azure. So that lock-in, that's gone. And Microsoft, they keep a non-exclusive license through 2032 and remain a major shareholder. But the days of exclusivity, they are over. And the timing, it's not a coincidence. OpenAI needs more revenue, and the fastest way to get it is to sell to customers on all major clouds instead of just one. So when your CFO is worried about funding data center contracts, you don't keep yourself locked into a single distribution channel. This one is almost too perfect. So South Africa's government published its draft national AI policy in April for public comment. So it was a very serious document. There were plans for a national AI commission, an ethics board, a regulatory authority, tax incentives for private investment. And the goal was to position South Africa as Africa's AI innovation hub. Then a local news outlet checked the references. At least 6 academic papers and journals cited in the policy did not exist. Totally fabricated. Almost, of course, it's AI-generated hallucinations. And a government writing an AI policy used AI to help write it, and the AI hallucinated the sources. The minister's response, I'll say, it was honest. This failure is not a mere technical issue, but has compromised the integrity and the credibility of the draft policy. And then he withdrew the entire document. I mean, the irony writes itself, but underneath this joke, it's a real warning, because if a government can publish an official policy document with fake citations because nobody checked the AI's work, what else is slipping through unchecked? Speaking of hallucinations, a major paper at ICLR 2026 in Rio de Janeiro just dropped a finding that nobody in the AI industry wants to hear. The paper is called The Reasoning Trap, and the core finding is counterintuitive. Training AI models to be better at reasoning, the exact thing that every AI company is racing to improve, actually makes them hallucinate more when using the tools, not less. So the researchers found that stronger reasoning through reinforcement learning increases tool hallucination rates in lockstep with task performance. So in other words, as models get smarter, they also get more confident about tools and information that don't exist. Prompt engineering, it helps a little bit, but a technique called DPO helps somewhat more. But neither really fully closes the gap. And this matters because 96% of enterprises now run AI agents in production. But 94% are worried that agent sprawl is increasing complexity and security risk. And only 12% have a centralized way to manage them. So if the models powering those agents are hallucinating more as they get smarter, well, that's not a theoretical problem. That's a ticking clock. Quick one to close, but it's a sign of how desperate the AI energy problem really is getting, because Meta just announced 2 new energy partnerships. The first is with Overview Energy for up to 1 gigawatt of space-based solar power to feed its data centers. And the second is with Noon Energy for up to 1 gigawatt and 100 gigawatt hours of long-duration battery storage. Space solar for data centers. So that's where we are. So between AI consuming half of all new US electricity demand, companies guzzling billions of gallons of water for cooling, which we covered in our deep dive video, and now literally launching solar panels into orbit, the physical cost of running AI, it just keeps getting harder to ignore and harder to pay for. So that's your AI news for today. Google employees at the Pentagon, a $2 billion deal by Beijing, OpenAI's revenue problems, and a government that let AI write its own AI policy. Oh, and got caught. So tell me in the comments, which story do you think matters the most? I'm genuinely curious where your head goes. And remember, we're giving away Amazon gift cards up to $100 to random subscribers. So hit subscribe, and then you're automatically entered. And of course, like the video, and I will see you in the next one.